So the question is, how can the differing things be treated as the same? You can't strip away the differences to get something that's identical unless you want to restrict it to postage stamps, where we don't need a concept. You don't need a concept Ayn Rand 33-cent stamp or any other, you use a descriptive phrase, you don't even need that, but you don't need concepts for where the things are identical. You need them for where the things aren't identical. I like to say abstraction is not insight. That's the way it's been treated. What is it? Concept is not a kind of percept. It is not a seeing. It's an interrelating. And this is a revolution. This is a revolution in Ayn Rand's approach to universal. Other people have viewed concepts as classifying and so forth, but not that there's a universal, there's an objective thing. If you interrelate concretes instead of looking for it in one. So it's not looking into the mouse, it's relating the mouse to the clicker. They're actually very similar. Both move, both send a signal, probably infrared, to a electronic product. I just happen to have this here. Electronic product to accomplish a task that it can do. So there is a similarity there, as opposed to the bottle, which sends no signals, is not connected to anything electronic, and does not control. It's not a control mechanism. So if you start looking wider, rather than narrower into the thing, you can find the basis of it, of a concept, of a universal, if you want to use that language. It requires two things that are similar and a foil, and something that's different. No two things are similar by themselves. And Ayn Rand's groundbreaking definition of similarity is what's behind her theory of concepts. Similarity is the relationship between two or more existents which possess the same characteristic or characteristics but in different measure or degree. So that handles the similar how. Why? Because the first two items, the pumpkin and the baseball, are similar in shape. Then if we start relating the baseball to the puck, no, we've left shape. That cannot be part of the same concept. Pumpkin and baseball could give rise to round or sphere, squashed sphere, slightly oblate spheroid, but puck cannot. It doesn't have that shape. Or if we want to compare the baseball and the hockey puck, we're at a very high level of abstraction. We're not talking about anything visual. We're talking about function. We're talking about knowing there are games. We're talking about knowing that sports games have something in common, spectator sports perhaps. And then we can see a relation of those two objects versus either the pumpkin or the hockey stick, because we switched to a new, as Ayn Rand terms it, conceptual common denominator, which is movable object essential to a game. I would have to refine that more. That's hit or pushed or shoved around to get it to a certain position that's essential to winning the game. But that's not true of the hockey stick. If you're going to relate the puck and the stick, I think you get the idea how you switch to a new conceptual common denominator. They are similar in terms of they're used in the same game. And if we go to the last two, we're switching to shape, back to a visual aspect, perceptually given similarity, which has nothing to do with the puck. So similar how means similar in a conceptual common denominator, similar along an axis of measurement where the things differ in degree. So similarity is this relationship. You have two things, A and B in my diagram, which are near together along an axis compared to C, which is far away. So A and B seem to go together. We perceive them in the form of similarity because of their measurement relationships, that they're close compared to C. Take away C and they're just at different places. To look clustered together, they have to be compared to a foil, to something that's far apart. So that's the beginning of the concept forming process. Where is the universal? The universal is man-made. The universal does not exist out there. There's the universal. This range is the universal. Now notice I've made, following a suggestion of Greg Salmieri, I've made the dots into a solid line. What I had is dots over here. What I still have is dots over here. I made it into a solid line. I put up guardrails. I put up a category. We now have a range. Yeah, things in this region, and there can be any value in this region, are near. So the universal is a range of measurements integrated by man to grasp measurement proximity within a range. Measurement proximity is within a range. And from that, we get Ayn Rand's definition of concept of mental integration. See, it's an interrelating. It's not a mental insight. It's not what's left in view when you subtract. It's a mental integration of two or more units possessing the same distinguishing characteristic with their particular measurements omitted. So we don't specify where it is in this range. When we say it's blue, this is the blue range. And it's approximate. I used hard edges, but most concepts don't have hard edges. There's no hard edge where blue becomes not blue, the borderline cases. And that gives rise to the question, how similar, right? Objectivism says nature doesn't tell us how similar, but there are discontinuities in some axes. Like at birth, there's a big discontinuity. There's a big inflection point in the curve. The thing before birth is living on the blood of the mother. When it's born, the placenta is cut, it starts breathing, it starts perceiving the external world. There's a big difference there, and that's a good place to draw the line. You don't have to draw it there, but you can't defend drawing it hardly any other place. But there has to be some basis for drawing the line where you do if you're breaking up the continuous. And you do have to allow for borderline cases like greenish blue.